Americans are buying fewer minivans than ever because, well, they're buying the new minivan, which would be large three-row crossovers. Chevrolet's entry is the Traverse. At nearly 150,000 copies moved in 2019, it's more popular than Honda Pilot and Toyota Highlander. That's kind of surprising. Those figures make it the third most popular vehicle to wear a bow tie, so it's an important rig for General Motors. First things first, Traverse is scheduled to get a mid-cycle refresh if you want to wait for that, but it has been pushed back because of, anyone? Yeah, COVID-19. I'm going to take a quick look at that. I'm going to check out this 2020 fancy Premier all-wheel drive model, plus take a gander back at a mid-level 2LT model that was front-wheel drive that I profiled a couple years back. This is sort of a past, present, future video. Let's start with the future. The 2022 Traverse, that now launches in 2021, gets the obligatory front and rear fascia replacement along with new LED head and taillights. The styling now matches up closer to Tahoe and Suburban, Chevy's truck-based SUVs, if you recall. There will be new interior seating options and an optional 8-inch cluster display. Otherwise, the cabin is just a light refreshing. Wireless, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay will be available too. On this 2020 model, standard automatic emergency braking only starts happening at the Premier level. All 2022s will get a full suite of standard active electronic safety tech, including auto braking, lane keep assist with departure warning, automatic high beams, and a distance indicator. It's a necessity for marketing these days. It's about time. Traverse is available with a kick-to-open tailgate, handy when you have groceries in one arm and a squirming toddler in the other. This cargo space is huge, best in class actually, and I'm not doing the TP trunk test these days, but I do have file footage. Let's go to the videotape. Unlike Tahoe, you can easily get a full-sized cooler or 5 packs of TP behind row 3. That's the advantage of a crossover's unibody structure, and really, it's a full half dozen because, well, the space is convenient like a small locker. Lots of tie-downs and such too. The seats drop easily, though it's quite a reach inside to raise them back up even with those straps. When it comes to cubic feet, Traverse is the cargo champ in this class, but funny thing, in the real world, the Volkswagen Atlas takes on the same 20 packs of the 2-ply, just like the Chevy. Remember, there's one under the load floor, which, by the way, is a reasonable height. Chevy says the powertrain for 2022 models will remain the same as this 2020. All Traverses roam the burbs with a naturally aspirated 3.6-liter V6 that puts out 310 horsepower and 266 pound-feet of torque on regular-grade gasoline. The transmission is GM's 9-speed Hydra-matic. Love the standard Prindle selector, manual shifting on the knob, not as much, though really, how many people do that on a regular basis? And no paddle shifters, these are for the sound system. All-wheel drive is not automatic, it's a mode to be selected. There's also one for rough terrain and another for towing. It's rated at up to 5,000 pounds. My first review of the Traverse was with a front-wheel drive model, and I mentioned that it suffered a little bit of torque steer, which is the tugging of the steering wheel under hard acceleration. This is an all-wheel drive model, and in that mode, that doesn't happen anymore. Traverse moves out nicely. You could subject the kids to 7-second 0 to 60 runs. Not sure that's responsible parenting, but no judgment here. I brought 2 kids to elementary school in a Miata, but that's a whole different story. Move up to the High Country model, and the all-wheel drive system gets an advanced rear axle drive unit with 2 clutches that independently control torque to each wheel. And just so you know, if you're in all-wheel drive, park it, lock it, and then return, it remains in all-wheel drive. It doesn't default to front-wheel drive every time you get into the car. Highlander, Ascent, Pathfinder, CX-9, Explorer, and Pilot are more fuel efficient by 2 to 3 miles per gallon. The Chevy is in the lower end of the middle. The EPA rates the fuel economy average of the big all-wheel drive Traverse at 20 miles per gallon, one less than a front-drive model. So yeah, fuel economy is affected a little bit with all-wheel drive, but it is nice to have the security, especially here in the Pacific Northwest, when rainy streets can be a little bit on the slick side. There's no high-performance version like Explorer ST. In the fun-to-drive category, Traverse rises to the top, close to the smaller Mazda CX-9. Seriously. For a big rig, Traverse handles pretty darn well, nice and crisp, not much body roll and dive. And that's something that General Motors doesn't really get credit for these days. It's kind of nailing it in the handling department. It's also quiet and comfortable, a great family road trip vehicle, unless you have cranky kids. Can't help you there. Let's talk about the automatic engine start-stop system. It's still pretty good and very smooth. And that's good because you can't really defeat it. Something I hope they address in the mid-cycle refresh. No word on that changing for the 2022 Traverse. Do yourself a favor, test drive to see if it's an issue. GM does a very good job with the tech. The look of the interior really hasn't changed since I profiled Traverse last time. You're looking at the 2018 model, which is a lower trim 2LT. And here's the 2020 Premier model for comparison. Yeah, it's an upgrade with good-looking trim in the places where your eyes gaze the most. Some plastics remain pretty average in quality. It's something that Chevy and GM in general could work on. There are lots of small slots and cubbies to put things, more so than usual. That includes this secret space that I suppose isn't so secret anymore, though you can set a passcode to lock it. A reminder that if you're stashing small laptops, iPads, and iPods in the glove box and console, turn them all the way off. Thieves are looking for the signals that they emit. I have friends that have found out the hard way. General Motors has had a technology called Teen Driver for a while now. It allows you to code a key fob to restrict certain performance aspects of the vehicle and tell you how they're driving your very expensive car. There's a new feature called Buckle to Drive. Basically, it keeps them from shifting into drive for 20 seconds if they haven't buckled up. When it comes to creature comforts, Premier's wheel is heated. Those are very nice. Both front seats get power adjustments and are heated and vented. They should be good for drivers of all sizes. My very petite wife found them to be quite nice. I do like digital rear-view mirrors, especially useful when cargo is loaded to the roofline. A feature I touched on before. Traverse has a unique airbag that can deploy between the two front seats so people don't knock heads during an impact. All of the controls are exceptionally easy to use. Family life is hard enough these days without having to deal with an obtuse interface. While the 8-inch screen isn't massive, GM's user interface is very easy to understand with good flow and touch sensitivity. Android and CarPlay are standard in 2020 models, just not wireless. And the surround camera system is well done with lots of options. It's nice to have these choices in a rig this size. Traverse is among the largest in class. Moving rearward from the LT trim up, you will be getting captain's chairs in the mid-row, no choice. Officially, that drops seating from 8 to 7, but it's really one less than that since 3 adults will not want to be in the way back together. It doesn't appear that this will change in the 2022 Traverse, just new fabrics. The floor is perfectly flat. Like the front, there are loads and loads of places for people to keep things. It's like another closet for your house in here. Nearly any electronic can be charged up to use Traverse's high-speed Wi-Fi hotspot if you spend the extra monthly fee. There's a separate climate zone and heated cushions. Pretty much everything is covered. I'm going to file video for row 3 since its function hasn't changed. A handy touch, you don't have to remove a child seat for easy access to the third row. A handier touch would be to have this feature on both chairs. The passenger side is the only one that gets it. It makes it fairly easy to get in and out of the way back. At 5'9", I have a good amount of room. The seats are mounted on the low side, so not a lot of thigh support. There are belts for 3. I would keep it to 2, unless they're little kids. If you like the looks, and why not? Traverse has a handsome chiseled look about it. You'll want to know pricing. This lightly optioned all-wheel drive Premier model retails for $50,590. It comes standard with a lot of stuff, including a decent 10-speaker Bose sound system. A panoramic glass roof would add $1,400. That's about the same price as Explorer, around $3,000 more than Highlander, and $5,000 more than Pilot. Retail pricing can be misleading, though.
If you like the Traverse but find that sum a bit stratospheric, a reminder that General Motors tends to set its retail pricing pretty high. So when you go into the dealership, they can offer you a screaming deal. My wife got $9,000 off the MSRP of her Voelk. Is this a good idea in the age where people price shop on the internet? Can't tell you, but now you're armed with some information.
In short, if you're not test driving and getting price quotes from local dealers, you're not doing your homework on a very expensive purchase. Time to sum things up with red light, green light. Green light. The good-looking Traverse is roomy and useful inside, so carrying people and cargo is effortless. The driving experience is a cut or two above most competitors. All of the controls are especially intuitive. Yellow light. It has slightly lower fuel economy than many competitors, and there's no hybrid option. The choice of mid-row bench seating in higher trim levels would be nice. Same with easy access to row 3 on both sides. Red light. Some cheap-looking plastics don't belong on the Premier trim level. Active safety tech that will be standard on 2022 models should be standard now, and GM retail pricing will turn people away before they even consider the vehicle. Remember, when shopping, there are always vans. New versions of Kia Sedona and Toyota Sienna are on the way, and Chrysler Pacifica is getting all-wheel drive. I know vans aren't fashion-forward, but it's my job to point out options. And yes, you'll find more choices in the large 3-row crossover segment. Things have become very interesting with the Kia Telluride and Hyundai Palisade, both excellent choices if you can find them. Whether you pull the trigger now or wait for the refreshed version in 2021, Chevrolet Traverse is a big package with trim driving dynamics. I've hardly mentioned all the competitors out there. GM alone has the Buick Enclave and the GMC Acadia, which is a little bit smaller than the Chevy and Buick if you want a 3-row GM crossover that's a little bit more compact. And while I would love to dive into reliability, as I've said before, it's a can of worms. Owner satisfaction with Traverse is high, according to Consumer Reports. In overall reliability, it doesn't do as well, but dive into individual aspects like engine, transmission, and electrical reliability, and it mostly gets green check marks. Same for Pilot to a lesser degree. It, CX-9, Highlander, Palisade, and Telluride are all rated higher overall than Traverse, but it pays to check out each one to see which one works for you and your family. You just don't know until you look. You can never do too much research. These things are expensive.
Hope you got something out of my look at the 2020 Chevrolet Traverse Premier all-wheel drive. A reminder, subscribe to this channel. Why? Because by subscribing, clicking the notifications bell, by leaving a comment, or clicking like on the video, it improves the algorithm on YouTube. It's free. I'm not asking for money, mostly because none of us have that anymore. Also, you can find me on Twitter. I'm an absolute riot on Twitter. Okay, maybe not. I'm also on Instagram, and these videos are now in 4K. So much great driven car reviews. And I'm just one guy. That's Driven. I'm Tom Voelk.